We may not be fully aware, but the thyroid gland plays a major role in the metabolism, the growth, and development of the human body. And as we observe World Thyroid Day tomorrow, May 25th, let's take a closer look at the main function of the thyroid and what we can do to keep this specific gland healthy. Now, joining us now live in the studio is Dr. Francis Chua. He's an endocrinologist from the Medical City. Good morning and welcome, Dr. Chua.
Yeah, good morning.
Now, as an endocrinologist, you specialize in everything that has to do with hormones like diabetes and, of course, hormones that the thyroid gland does for us. So let's start with that. Explain to us what the thyroid gland does and why is it so important in our body?
Yeah, so the thyroid gland is the one that produces thyroid hormones. So it affects nearly every organ in the body. So sometimes the thyroid can produce too much hormone, sometimes too little. So I think it's easier to understand that the thyroid hormone affects everything. So if you're hyperthyroid, everything moves faster. You get to go to the CR more often, your heart rate can be faster, you can lose weight. Hypothyroidism, on the other hand, is the reverse. So the heart rate is low, you can be constipated, you can gain weight out of expectation.
Okay, so those are two of some of the more common ones. Let's talk about the other common problems na meron sa thyroid gland natin. Let's talk about goiter. What is it, how does it occur, and what can people do about it?
Yeah, so goiter is actually just the enlargement of the thyroid gland. Our thyroid is in this lower neck area. The entire thyroid gland can be enlarged or you can have nodules. So there are many causes for this. It can be something that's related to hyper and hypothyroidism. If you have nodules, they can be benign or they can be malignant. So malignant means cancer, no? So that's one of the main reasons we need to have it checked because thyroid cancer is still a serious concern.
That is true, and we'll talk about that. But first, baka yung mga viewers natin, kinakapa na nila, hindi nila makapa kung nasan yung thyroid gland nila. Is it normal na wala tayong makapa with a normal thyroid? Talk about that.
Yeah, usually it's non-palpable. You're not able to see it on your own. And when you try to examine, you might not be able to feel it also. So different patients might have a difficulty in checking if you have an enlarged thyroid. So if you are a bit on the heavy side, you have a short neck, it might be difficult to examine it on your own.
Okay, so normally hindi natin nakakapa. So the symptoms, like we mentioned earlier, is one of the telltale signs na may problema tayo sa thyroid. Now let's talk about thyroid cancer because this is something that, you know, is pretty serious, anything that talks about cancer. How can this be prevented? What can people do? Meron bang mga test, screening test na pwedeng gawin ng mga tao?
Yeah, so it's kind of hard to prevent thyroid cancer. The only way we can avoid it is to avoid exposure to ionizing radiation. So for most people, if you're not working in the medical setting, you might not be able to have any exposure that you can avoid. So in order for us to check for thyroid cancer, it's good to have an ultrasound done, especially if you see any enlargement or if you see any changes in the neck area.
Now, itong paborito ng mga pasyente, Doc, anong pwedeng kainin? Ano ang masustansya para sa thyroid natin? Especially, how to prevent goiter?
So, a lot of the goiter we had before was related to iodine deficiency. Right now, we are iodine sufficient, so most Filipinos will probably not have an issue of not taking enough iodine. But for people with an unbalanced diet, maybe you're inland, you're not able to eat seafood, sometimes taking iodine in the form of multivitamin might help in preventing goiter.
Okay, now if people have any questions regarding their thyroid gland, where should they go?
Yeah, so thyroid gland can be examined by surgical specialties or surgeon, ENT, but we can also have a checkup with endocrinologist. So if you have symptoms of hyper, you have symptoms of hypo, you have an enlargement of thyroid, you can go see an endocrinologist.
Yes, that's good. So thank you once again, Dr. Francis Chua, endocrinologist from the Medical City, for joining us. Marami tayong natutunan, especially with regard to the thyroid gland.